Ditch the toxic sunscreens and let's make a natural sunscreen with zinc oxide and beet tallow. Let's go. So this recipe we're gonna make is gonna make about 4 ounces of sunscreen at about a 30 SPF. So the first thing we're gonna need is to get our oil. Here I have a mixture of coconut and tallow. Doesn't really matter. The more tallow you have, the kind of the thicker it'll be, but when you're out in the sun, you know, it kind of starts to melt, but the coconut will obviously melts a little bit quicker. So we're gonna do 80, or almost there, grams of this stuff. Just like so. Now I'm a little bit over there. Let's take a little bit out. And there we go, it's close enough. Now what we're gonna do is create a double boiler. So the way we do that, we just get like a saucepan, thickness like this, and we fill it up about halfway and get this to a boil. So I'll go ahead and crank this to high. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get a pot because we're creating a double boiler, and I prefer glass always in this situation. And so I'm actually gonna go ahead and just take this one here. And then we're gonna add our oil to it here. This is our 80 grams of our oil mixture, just like that. And now we're gonna weigh out our zinc oxide. And you have to make sure that you get a non-nano zinc if you're gonna apply it to your skin. And the other thing is when you open this, you really wanna wear a mask and make sure you're in a well-ventilated area. You don't wanna be breathing this zinc oxide into your lungs. It's a major lung irritant. So now that we have our oil in here, and we need to weigh out our zinc oxide, in the meantime, just a little bit of an efficiency step. You can go ahead and start adding your oil here because you're gonna wanna melt this oil first before we add the zinc. And so you can see that's getting hot, and that'll start to boil on the bottom. It's called a double boiler. If you don't know, it just creates heat all around this glass, and it'll melt the oil. Then we'll put the zinc oxide in. We're gonna blend it up, let it cool, and we're done. Okay, so to make a 4-ounce blend of a 30 SPF, we did 80 grams of our oil, and we're gonna need 34 grams of our zinc oxide. So here we go. There we go, close enough for me. Definitely close. So maybe we've got a 32, 34 SPF. So as you can see, our oil is almost melted, and then we're gonna add our zinc oxide. And one thing I like to do to help blend it all together, if you have a metal whisk, you can just whisk it in. One thing I like to do is get one of these immersion blenders. I got this little KitchenAid here. And this thing really mixes things nicely. So if you're into making your own, skins and lotions and things like that, like definitely would say invest in one of these bad boys. All right, so our oil is nice and melted. So let's go ahead and add our zinc oxide. And what I like to do here is go ahead and start the blender or start mixing the oil. So, and then just kind of like dusting this stuff in the best I can. All right, just gonna slowly start incorporating this stuff. It's kind of making a mess here, and I could have avoided that if I would have added a little bit more oil. But just keep that in mind. You can see it splattering everywhere. And as you can see, it's getting this stuff everywhere. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna double my oil and double my zinc oxide to just make twice as much more so that my immersion blender doesn't splatter this shit all over the kitchen and my wife either kill me for not cleaning it all up or... Okay, so our oil's melted down completely. I've added our zinc oxide. It's gonna get all mixed up. So I ended up having to double the formula. So initially, you guys don't remember, we had 34 grams of zinc oxide, and we had 80 grams or 79 grams of our oil. So this, and what you're seeing, is 160 grams of oil and around, I guess, 70 grams of zinc oxide. And that's gonna give us about a anywhere from a 28 to 34 SPF, which I feel like is plenty high. Anything higher is kind of like more more used if you're like surfing, if you're out in the sun all day long in the middle of the day or something like that. But this is great for the kids. You just try to apply it a few times throughout the day. And it doesn't make you, I mean, it does make you white looking, but once you rub it in, it kind of, it's not so bad. And then you can also lighten it up on that zinc oxide if you wanted to. All right, so I just busted open this capsule, mixed it down in my oil, blended all that up. Now I've got a little extra vitamin E in this formula. Now, if you want something that's going to be a little bit thicker, more like a salve consistency, you would want to add beeswax to this formula. But that's not really what I'm wanting to do here. Again, our mixture is just of our oil is basically just beef tallow with a little bit of coconut oil and zinc oxide. It's that simple. And then in this case, add a little extra Life vitamin E capsule to this whole formula, bring in some vitamin E for even more skin protection. All right, we got our mixture here. Hasn't quite cooled, still pretty warm. I'm gonna go ahead and pour it into my glass jar. Let's go ahead and do this. I'm making a crazy mess. Make sure everything's in frame. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that mixed up. So I just took my nice little frother here, do the finalized mixing. This also kind of aerates the mixture too, but typically you don't add like a whipping situation, but this oil's already been whipped, and typically you whip it when it's cooled down, not this warm, so it technically won't whip. But being resourceful because I didn't get it all mixed up.